It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. I'm your humble host, Kevin Keatsman, a.k.a. Podboy, with you for the next hour leading up to the Vince Show on KCMO Talk Radio. We have a plethora of topics today on the broadcast, including James Comey, who's been in the news a lot for his seashell scandal and his appearances on other shows. But do you know what his book is about that he's peddling? It's a novel. And I'm willing to bet right now left-wingers in Hollywood at some point will make a movie out of this book James Comey has written. That's coming up a little bit later on. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman, yesterday at a hearing on Capitol Hill, unveiled a nude picture of herself. This is true. I will explain why. She showed that in front of everyone in the House as they were having a very serious hearing on personal privacy. Kevin Spacey is making a comeback. We call this show Uncanceled, and when people are uncanceled, we celebrate them whether we like them or not. This is quite a journey over the last 8 years. The very famous actor apparently is all the way back and getting ready to work again as the Me Too era has died. It is all ahead on this episode of Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio, where we start. Full disclosure here, this was my monologue before I heard or knew that Patrick Tuohy was going to be on with Pete Mundo today. So you may have heard Patrick Tuohy from the Show Me Institute earlier today talking about, and I'll give Patrick, I say this every time, he's smarter than I am. He knows more about the math, the fundamental details in the weeds, the inside baseball of all these different machinations of what these states want to do with trying to lure a baseball team for a stadium or a football team for a stadium or whatever it might be. He knows all the ins and outs. I am a simpleton, as it were. I'm a common sense, general kind of guy because I think that's where most voters in America are. I think it's the way most people live their lives. They have certain things that we're really into, that we're really smart about. Like, I'm not a lawyer, so the law isn't one. But I understand, I look at things like from a juror's perspective, what's right and wrong. I think most of us would look at things that way. That's why we ask regular folks to be on juries whenever we can. So Patrick has written this piece at the ShowMeInstitute.org website where he talks about the truce being over between Kansas and Missouri over luring businesses across the state line. He compares this to a Civil War reenactment, that they've just lined up and been, lobbing fake cannonballs at each other. Senate Bill 10 was quashed in Missouri last week. It died, and as Tuohy writes, so did the hopes for a truce. That's now over. And Tuohy writes, quote, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly indicated last year she was never really serious about the truce, but now Missouri has let the truce expire. And in doing so, our lawmakers join Kansas in an economic race to the bottom. It's bad policy. Worse, it's profoundly unserious government. Now, I can't fully disagree with what he's saying at the end, and I understand his argument, and I'm sort of on his side, that there are unserious things here, there's bad policy, and there are bad results from policies. But for the focus of this discussion, we're going to talk about the Star Bonds, who Patrick, if you go back and listen to his interview with Pete Mundo, just eviscerated today, said the math doesn't add up, it will never work, it's a very dangerous investment to buy these bonds, and nobody wants to buy them, and it isn't going to happen, and Kansas is going to fall apart because of that. Because we've been looking at the latest Star Bond project, which was millions of dollars for a museum at 135th Street in Overland Park, a museum that's failed miserably. It's won architectural awards globally. It's a beautiful building. Everybody loves the architecture. But you know what happens when you think you're reinventing soccer? Like if you have your little kid in Overland Park play soccer, you play over and over and over and over and over. Then you have a spring season and a summer season. You just keep playing soccer. When you take your family to a museum, you go once. And that's it. And maybe an exhibit comes 5 years later. You go, okay, we'll go see that exhibit. Mostly it's about, let's go see the new museum. Well, that's gone. Prairie Fire's bust. It didn't work. Star Bonds failed. People will lose money. It's a bad deal. Let me tell you what doesn't fail. This is my area of expertise. The National Football League doesn't fail. Major League Baseball doesn't fail. They've tried. Oh, Lord knows they've tried to kill baseball 100 times. They can't kill baseball. They've done everything they can to kill the sport of baseball, and they can't kill it. It still makes owners money. Teams still go up in value. The Royals are valued at over $1 billion, and they don't even have a stadium that anybody wants. So this is where I disagree with Patrick. He says this is all bad policy and it's unserious governance. It is not. Kansas Speedway could still be paying off their bonds right now until 2027. That's how long they had to pay off their $300 million. They paid it off long ago. This project began 25 years ago. They paid it off 7 years early. And you say, okay, well, it was only $300 million compared to a couple of billion. Yeah, it was NASCAR in a town where there's never been NASCAR, in an area of town that sucked, that nobody wanted to be at. Everybody's like, Wyandotte County, what a joke. NASCAR, what are you doing going there? $300 million, no lights, one event a year. 3 days of racing out of 365 days is where that thing started, with no lights. 25 years ago, and they paid it off 7 years early. Everybody that bought a bond made money. They got their interest all the way through, and they got paid back. Everybody made money, and it was done early. And for the last 7 years of this contract, guess what? The state of Kansas gets new sales tax revenue every time something happens at the Speedway, where there's now 2 big race weekends and the American Royal Barbecue and concerts and events. These things have worked. What if I came to you and was selling you a bond for Sporting Kansas City? They failed. They were the Kansas City Wiz, for God's sake. That was their name. They were the Wiz, then they were the Wizards. They didn't know what they were. They were at Arrowhead, 80,000 seats, 1,100 people. It was awful. It was so bad the Hunt family dumped it, and they love soccer. Get rid of this. We're out. We can't make this work. Neil Patterson and Cliff Illig at Cerner said, we've got an idea. We'll buy the team. We'll go use these star bonds. We'll build a new stadium, and this thing will fly. People will come. Would you have bought those bonds? Well, that worked out. What about minor league baseball? Would you have bought those? Did you know Kansas City's only resort hotel is opening this week in Kansas City, Kansas? It's the Margaritaville Resort Hotel. Water slide. It's like going to a resort on vacation. We don't have any place like that in Kansas City. There's no great hotel with a pool here and water sports and a destination for people to come. There's the Great Wolf Lodge. I guess if that counts, that's for kiddos only. Our only resort hotel in the cities in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County. They use star bonds. They came in and spent hundreds of millions and saved a water park that turned deadly. Is the only reason it closed. Schlitterbahn wouldn't have failed if they hadn't built a death trap of a ride. Of course it failed. You're telling me that if you have an opportunity to invest in bonds with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals as your partner, you think that's a risky investment? If you think that it's going to give you interest every year, in fact, it is such a good investment, there's already rumblings that Clark Hunt wants to buy $250 million worth of bonds himself. It's such a good investment. He knows he will get the interest off of it. He knows it will be paid back early. And he knows that's better than spending his own money. He might as well be on the bond project because it's going to win. I'm sorry. I can't see this. I can't envision any bad investment in the NFL or Major League Baseball. Not one. My God, Jacksonville Jaguars are making a profit. Their stadium's a dump. They've been talking about moving their team forever. They haven't done it. They're not any good on the field, but they print money. I just have to disagree with Patrick Tuohy on this one all the way through. This is not star bonds as normal. This is Major League Baseball and the National Football League. It will not fail. These bonds will not fail. They will generate the revenue. It will get paid back. The Chiefs, here's what's never going to happen. I can't say this loud enough. The Chiefs are never going to lose money. Clark Hunt will not allow it. If he wants to build something in Kansas City, Kansas, and he wants to build a hotel or a golf course or a resort or an entertainment district on the other side, whatever he decides to build, it's going to work. I can promise you it's going to work. If it's adjacent to the Kansas City Chiefs and maybe an AFL Hall of Fame or something cool like that that's a tribute to his dad, and football fans from all over the country could come and see that when they come watch their team play here, all these things. Interactive, 365 days a year, or at least 362 days a year, maybe closed on some holidays. I'm going to guess the Chiefs will have a great idea and people will come. And it will get paid off early, and he will make a boatload of money because Clark Hunt's never not made money. Guess what Clark Hunt doesn't do? He doesn't build museums at Prairie Fire. He doesn't. So this is where Patrick and I disagree. The idea is not unserious governance. It's approving everyone. Don't approve everyone. Don't approve the stupid museum. I'm sorry. Okay, great. It's an architectural wonder. Awesome. You built a big movie theater there. Nobody goes to the movies anymore. The whole thing's a disaster. In one of the most lucrative and attractive places to do business anywhere in Kansas City, they gave government assistance. They shouldn't have. They shouldn't have done it. They should have said, guess what? At some point, like this Black and Veatch thing Pete's been talking about, somebody's going to come in and buy that land and develop and do something with it. That is prime land. That doesn't need government help. Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County at the interchange of those highways has needed it. They've needed it. And this is when you use it to get the National Football League, to get Major League Baseball. It's exactly what Star Bonds were built for. These teams, my God, if you could fail in the NFL or Major League Baseball, these teams would be gone. The NBA failed here and they moved. They went to Sacramento. Hockey failed. They moved. You can't kill baseball or football. You can't kill it. You certainly can't kill it in this town. It ain't happening. I'm investing right now. If I can buy these bonds on the Kansas City Chiefs and a new stadium and the Super Bowl coming and all that comes with it, I'm all in. These bonds will be paid off early, way early. And the smartest, best investors in Kansas City are going to be jumping on board because it's going to mean they're buddies with Clark Hunt, which is also great business for anybody in business in this town. No, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. These bonds are. The Kansas City Chiefs, 3-time champions, 10 to 15 years left with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, a new stadium with a Super Bowl and Final Fours, an iconic venue in America, maybe globally. Oh, no, this is the one you want to be in on. If you're going to invest in a bond, in a Star Bond, this is the one. It wasn't the Speedway. That was a leap of faith. It certainly wasn't a failed soccer team, and that worked out, or minor league baseball, or a furniture mall. It wasn't Cabela's or Bass Pro. No, this is the one you've been waiting for. If you want to invest in the Kansas City Chiefs. 913-408-7957 is our number to call. Give me a shout. We'll talk about it next on Uncanceled. Okay, we're going to get right to the phones. I'll get right there, guys. Hang on the line for a second. I wanted to add in the first segment, we ran out of time, an example of where the Star Bonds should have been used but were not, and that is the Kansas football stadium. KU's doing a new football stadium right now, and they're doing it in phases because they couldn't raise enough money to do it all at once. They had promised a hotel, a convention center, shops, restaurants, all this thing that they're calling the Gateway Project at the University of Kansas. The state of Kansas, you want to get Patrick Tuohy, you want to see bad governance? Bad governance is Laura Kelly handing over $85 million from the state of Kansas, no vote, no Star Bonds, no nothing. Here's free money. Here's $85 million for your football team. Nobody talks about this. We're sitting here talking about the Chiefs and Royals, or, oh, there's $300 million in Star Bonds. That all got paid back for the Kansas Speedway. There's no paying this back. This was just a handout to KU football. And then what'd they do once they ran this thing up to over $300? They said, wow, we just found $85 million from Laura Kelly. This is awesome because we're KU, and she loves us, and she's just going to hand us this $85 million. Don't have a hotel yet. Not sure about the Gateway Project. That's down the road. But we'll build some new seats and redo our stadium, and we'll be playing there this fall. And they still haven't raised their part of the money yet to pay for all of this and still don't have a hotel partner. But nobody's questioning any of this because, you know, it just came from the government. They just handed them $85 million. That should have been Star Bonds. All right, if you're going to build this district, let's see you do this and pay it all back. That's how Star Bonds are way better. Kansas football got the greatest deal in the history of college football. Nobody got this. Nobody just gets $85 million handed to you to build something. Trust me, it never would have passed because every fan of every other school in the state of Kansas, and I'm even talking about like Fort Hays State, Emporia, whomever, would have voted hell no unless we're getting some money. They would have had to pay money to everybody around the state for their football programs. And the crazy part of the 300 and some million is Kansas did the old shell game, bait and switch. Once they got the free money, what'd they do? Oh, dang it. Bill Self's not real happy with this. They gave him $50 million for Allen Fieldhouse because he was going to scream to the heavens that football was getting all this money and we're not putting stuff in Allen Fieldhouse. We got so much here from the state. Here's $50 million, Bill. What do you want to do at Allen Fieldhouse? That's bad government, Patrick Tuohy. That's really bad. That's so much worse than a star bond you can't even calculate. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times worse than star bonds, no doubt. All right, we got some folks riled up here today. And, of course, as always, there's two sides to pretty much every story. We start with Tim. He lives in Wyandotte County. Love your perspective. Tim, what's on your mind this morning?
Hey, Kevy, how you doing?
Great, thank you.
I am 67 years old. I am old enough to remember when Wyandotte County was all welfare rolls and machine politics. I remember thinking when they were going in with the Speedway, this place is going, and the legend, this place is going to be a ghost town in 20 years. Well, you know what? I was wrong. And the star bonds, I'm no expert, but I'm with you. These sports teams don't fail. And it's Patrick Tuohy. He's from Missouri, basically. So to me, he's kind of taking the Missouri perspective. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're right, and he wants this truce. And what I said on my podcast earlier today was, it's pretty funny. Everybody in Missouri wants a business truce. Nobody in Kansas wants it. I don't even understand it. Like I don't know anybody in Kansas is like, why wouldn't we compete? I think competing in life is one of the real fundamental joys of being a human being. And I don't care what you're doing. You're playing tiddlywinks or business or a weekend match with your buddies playing golf. Competing is fun. It's stimulating. You know you're alive when you're competing for something. Why would anybody want to squash competition?
It makes you better. It makes the whole thing better. And may the best person win.
I'll assume, since Patrick Tuohy wants a truce, I'll assume that he doesn't want us moving these car manufacturers from Canada and Mexico into America, and he doesn't want us competing with China economically. I'm assuming he's a one-world guy, a globalist that doesn't want us to compete with other countries. Because why would we do that? Why would you compete? We should have a truce with every country. We shouldn't be bringing these car manufacturing jobs back to America. We should leave them where they are. Why would we compete?
And I got one more thing to say. And with all sincerity, the Chiefs should hire you as a consultant. I had never thought of that AFL Hall of Fame. That would be excellent because it would almost take on a glow of like the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, because the AFL was on the vanguard of getting players from HBC, the historical black colleges. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Appreciate that, buddy. And I thank you for your call. That was excellent. Here is Stephen in KCK. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, Kevin, I'm really enjoying the show today. You're hitting it out of the park. Just a small note, the KU guys just went back to the Lawrence City Council for another $300 or $400 million for a parking garage at Nines of Mississippi, so that'll be a fun one.
The city council does not have that money.
Well, no, they're going to form a star bond district to go back to the legislature.
For a parking garage?
To get another $400 million, 5 stories deep.
Oh my!
Just giving you a little bone from a KU donor here.
Okay.
When I grew up in Chicago as a little kid, it was laughed at when we said we were going to Kansas City to make our fortune, and there's something you just can't quantify. But now, 30, 40 years later, we're on the top 20 of every destination, travel and leisure, cities to go to in the world. That's what Patrick Tuohy doesn't understand, is that there's something about being the point of conversation around the world.
Well, it's not even that. Stephen, it's not even that. It's our everyday movements here. We live here. It's quality of life. There are simply, it's a great call as always. We're up against a break, buddy. I'm sorry today we didn't have as much time as I'd like to have, but it's quality of life is what we're talking about. How much more proud are you today to be from Wyandotte County than you would have been 25 years ago? Just because of that one place. This was the dregs. No, I ain't going to Wyandotte County. I'm not going close to that place. Not touching it. Today, let's go to the races. Let's go to a sporting match. It's on in Wyandotte County. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. I'm Kevin Keatsman. We're back after the news. All right, I've been texting with Patrick Tuohy during the break, and we considered having him on right now, but there's not as much time in this segment as there will be tomorrow. He's going to be on the show tomorrow, and he was on with Pete earlier today, and I encourage everybody to go listen to that interview on the podcast page at kcmotalkradio.com. It'll be posted here if it's not, now within the next hour or two. It'll be up. He was on with Pete earlier today, and he makes excellent points about this, generally speaking, being bad government to give money to sports teams. I agree with that. I live in a different part of Realville than Patrick, where sports has been my livelihood. Of course, I've got a bias towards sports. I think they're a huge part of this city. I think this is a quality of life issue that there's very few things that the government can do that really touches people's quality of life in a way like that. What price do you put on 3 Super Bowl parades and what we feel as Kansas Cityans right now and what our life is like living this way? And how is it different if you've lived as long as I have here from 20 years ago? It's way different. The answer is it's a completely different. I mean, Spielberg's next movie is about Kansas City. Kansas City is cool, all right? A lot of people hate the Chiefs nationwide, but all of a sudden Kansas City's kind of cool. I don't really care that much about people that don't live here, what they think about us, but it is neat to see that they recognize what's going on here and things are happening that have never happened before. It's just different. We're so much cooler. We used to have this argument, St. Louis or Kansas City. Well, this is a joke. We're not really having this conversation, are we? Where would you rather live? What's a greater city? What's cooler, St. Louis or Kansas City? Go poll Americans on that one. I mean, that'll be an epic beatdown. So, I mean, that's not what we grew up with. Oh, you got a chip on your shoulder over there in Kansas City. You want to be like St. Louis. Oh, there was some truth to that with some people. Not anymore. I don't know anybody in this town that wants to be St. Louis.
That's why St. Louis are mad at us for about to get new stadiums. And, they've been in Chicago's shadow. Now they're in Kansas City's shadow, too.
It's all true. That's perfectly said. That is perfectly said. So Patrick Tua will be on the show tomorrow, and we'll get his thoughts on much of this. I've got some other news stories here I want to hit on today. One is this part of this book that came out about Joe Biden. They were having a discussion last night. In the spring of 24, this has been just a little over a year ago, Joe Biden did a town hall. Wait for it. The president of the United States did a town hall with no media. It was recorded, and it was never used or released. It was so bad, they couldn't even take clips and turn them into television commercials. Their goal was, let's do this, and if it's really good, we'll release some of this to the media, and he'll get great run for having done this town hall. But we're not going to have it live. We're not putting it on CNN. No media there. It was completely closed and controlled by the White House. They handpicked their audience. It cost, they handpicked the audience? It cost millions of dollars to produce, and they had many, many, many more millions they were going to use on media to make television commercials out of it. They scrapped the whole thing. They told people who asked, what are you going to do with that? Well, the lighting was bad, so we didn't use it. You spent millions of dollars with all your Hollywood people on a television production for the sitting president of the United States to do a town hall, and the lighting was bad? Why didn't you stop? Why would you have gone through that and say, we got to get this right, we'll try again tomorrow? No, the lighting was not bad. Joe Biden was bad. It was so bad, this is what they do. Again, it goes back locally to Quentin Lucas, the city manager, Chris Hernandez, all this stuff that's happened there. It's the same thing. There are no Trump secrets. The dude was in front of the cameras live yesterday 6 times, taking questions from anybody. He got a question from an outfit called Notus. Notus. Do you know what that is? Trump's like, I've never heard of that. What is that? He's like, get a real job, dude, which was not nice. Trump shouldn't have said that. Notus is a 2-year-old media organization started by some billionaire that stands for News of the United States. That's their outfit. They're online. And he's taking questions from everyone everywhere. There's complete transparency of everything that's going on. Joe Biden had a town hall that they scrapped. I can't believe it. I just can't even believe that they did that. This was going to be their big ad campaign. Look how good he is and smooth he is in the town hall after we touch it up and edit it and do all these things. Man, what an worst presidency of our life. He has blown Jimmy Carter out of the water. It is not close. James Comey's been in the news. We've seen all this stuff with these seashells, and he's a liar. Comey's blaming his wife, saying, well, she thought it was an address in the sand. Well, what are the odds you walk by that? Slim. We're going to say 99% chance Comey made the configuration of seashells. I think we all pretty much believe that. And he goes on Stephen Colbert, and they start talking about 86 this, meaning a bartender would say, we got to 86 this customer, which means you stop serving him alcohol or you kick him out. Okay, you can apply it to things like that. That's not what this meant. 8647 is get rid of 47. No matter what language you're using here, it means get rid of somebody, whether it's make them leave the restaurant or you're going to fire them, whatever it may be. He can make an argument that I was putting this down, I was fire Donald Trump or impeach Donald Trump, whatever. That's not what this meant. 86 means you off somebody. There's only one way to get rid of somebody permanently, and that's to kill them. It's the only way to do it. And I don't know anybody that doesn't think that's what 86 is. But the best part of this Comey story is he's on a book tour, which makes me believe this was all premeditated, that he knew exactly what he was doing. Some, workshop somewhere 6 months ago, they said, okay, let's create a social media buzz right at the time of the book release. Then you go on all the talk shows and you do all these interviews and you're everywhere. Jesse Waters sent Johnny out to find him at a book signing and ask him to sign his seashells. It was pretty comedic and also awkward. Comey wouldn't answer any of the real questions that were being asked. But here's the best part. This book isn't about Jim Comey. It's not about the Democrats. It's a novel. He's written a novel. You want to hear the premise of his book? This will be a movie. The leftists will make this into a movie. It's a female, really rich, successful hedge fund manager who leaves Wall Street because of a terrible situation. She goes back to the prosecutor's office where she used to work. She's the hero. She's going back like to the Department of Justice or prosecutor's office. I assume this is set in New York, but I don't know that. The whole movie is about a right-wing domestic terror extremist. The bad guy. A right-winger is the most terrorizing threat in the United States today. And this female lead leaves Wall Street hedge fund and goes back to prosecutor and chases down and gets this domestic terrorist, the right-winger, the Trump dude, the MAGA boy. That's what the novel's about. I don't think anybody has Trump derangement syndrome like James Comey. That's completely out of whack, completely. I mentioned earlier Nancy Mace, the congresswoman from South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. She was on Capitol Hill yesterday in a House hearing on private surveillance. She claims she was surveilled a few years ago by someone named Patrick Bryant, who is still at large in South Carolina, has never paid a fine, never been convicted, never been in jail, installed a camera in her residence, and got video of her walking around her apartment or house naked. Kept it for 3 years for himself. She has the goods, and she made one of those big chart things, and she brought it out in front of the hearing yesterday and said, there's me walking around my apartment naked. He's got it all still, and he's never been prosecuted. We need laws on the books for these perverts. We cannot allow people to do this. This is a real crime. I don't know the whole backstory on who Patrick Bryant is, how he got access to her house, or what any of this is, but that should be a real crime. And any perverts that are out there videoing naked women or the other way around or whatever it is should be locked up for a while. That's just sick behavior. That's really sick behavior. The sick behavior is what they do with it after the fact. That's just disgusting and weird. But Nancy Mace did that. You couldn't really see if you're being weird yourself right now. She had it to where she was sort of protected by it, but it was like, okay, well, looked like she was walking out of a bedroom to the kitchen with no clothes on. I'm not a nude walker around my house. I'm not that guy. A lot of people are. There's nothing wrong with it. I ain't judging. Do whatever you want to do. It's your house. We all think we're private in our own house, and they're looking into the fact that maybe many of us are not. They're also wondering about other countries that make televisions and things like that and what could be in them and what they see of our everyday habits and how they're watching. Oh, this didn't take long. You remember on Monday's show, we talked about the WNBA was investigating racism at the game between Indiana and Chicago on Saturday because Angel Reese was getting slapped around by Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever. And afterwards, well, of course she had a bad game, and of course they lost by 1,000. Well, it's racism. These fans in Indianapolis are so white. And there was racism, and they were hollering slurs at me. This didn't take long for the WNBA. 48 hours. They come out with it on Tuesday. There is no evidence this happened. None. Angel Reese's coach said she didn't hear anything. Caitlin Clark didn't hear it. No other player on the court heard it. No fans in the stand heard it. The people in the section where it supposedly came from have videos, and none of them have any racism on it. Nobody. Not one person in there heard racism. Yet Angel Reese walked in front of the cameras on Tuesday, was asked questions by the worst set of reporters in America, who asked absolutely nothing. What was it like to have to deal with this? And are you satisfied with the WNBA saying they didn't find anything, but they're going to try to make sure everything's okay? And she said, I've got a great support staff. I'm doing well. She said it was hard to hear. That was her quote. But she never said what it was or who it was or what they said. There are no specifics. This did not happen. The WNBA needs to suspend Angel Reese right now. If she came out after the game on Saturday after getting her butt kicked with foul language or some other verbal abuse or behavior toward any group of people other than claiming she's a victim of racism, she would be suspended. All kinds of athletes get suspended for saying stupid stuff. This is as stupid as it gets. In fact, it's been proven that this is a crime. At certain levels, this is a crime. Race hoaxes can be criminal in nature. This one probably doesn't rise to that. But if the WNBA wants to do anything, if they want to do anything really to make people look at their league and go, wow, okay, not only do I like Caitlin Clark, and if I'd never watched your league before, I'll give you a chance because that's right. Your study just concluded this. Nobody thinks this except Angel Reese. We're suspending her for one game. Heck, I don't care. Suspend her for one half of one game. Let her play. Suspend her for one half and say, we're taking action. You won't do this again. And dock her half a game's pay. Fine her for lying. We've got hundreds of other people here. None of them heard what you heard. You're the one lying. We've caught you. Don't do it again. That's how we stop this stuff. If you went to my podcast today, Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, the lead is a montage of George Wendt as Norm Peterson on Cheers. Cheers was it's just one of those shows that has never left me. It was just not an odd time in my life. I'd just become an adult. It was about a bar. I was of drinking age. And it was controversial at the time. It was one of the very first shows that the Super Bowl was used to promote this new show. And not that there hadn't been alcohol on TV before. You could even go back to like Gunsmoke episodes where they're in Dodge City at the Long Branch and they're shooting whiskey. But everybody that drank in those episodes, something really bad happened to them. There was nothing good about having a drink. There was bad places with bad people playing cards. There were working girls in there. It was awful. It was like, you don't want to be like this. Cheers was, all right, you got something to get you down with your job or your life or your relationship or something. Come on in here and be somebody's friend for a couple hours. These are nice folks. They'll be your friends. And it resonated with everyone. I mean, everybody that has ever walked into a bar and had a conversation with a stranger and felt welcome in that place having a beer. Norm Peterson, the character that George Wendt played, epitomized that. He was the everyman. And he was incredibly funny at it. And, of course, his famous tag on the show was entering saying, good afternoon, everybody. And they'd all holler, Norm. We've got a montage of those up at Kevin Kietzman Has Issues. If you want to hear him, we talk more about George Wendt and his career. He has great ties to Kansas City. He went to Rockhurst College for a while. He loved Rockhurst better than Notre Dame, where he flunked out. He liked Rockhurst because there was a bar across the street, he said, and enjoyed that. He's played in the dinner theater here. He's been to Big Slick. Mark, I don't know how familiar you would have been with the show Cheers. Did you watch it in reruns? You were probably a little kid at that point in time, but it was an epic show, 275-some episodes. The final episode had 81 million viewers.
I knew of the show. I didn't watch it a ton. I've seen a couple episodes. Need to go back through and watch it, though.
28 Emmys it won. I mean, it was the gold standard of what a sitcom was supposed to be and carried NBC forever. 1982 to 1993, all 275 episodes George Wendt was in. He died at the age of 76 in his sleep. He will be missed. Big Slick is here next week, and I'll bet it's a heck of a tribute.
Oh, yeah. The whole weekend will probably be a nice tribute to him.
Really, really, really good dude. All right, have you heard of Unbound Gravel? Sounds like a band, doesn't it?
Yeah, a country band.
Unbound Gravel. I got this from an emailer, a podcast emailer, who sent it in and said, hey, I don't know if this is going on, Kevin, but you might want to mention on your podcast. I started reading about it, and I fell in love with it. It's something I'll never do because I can't do it, but I mean, instantly, awesomely have respect for the competitors. This is a global event. It's a tour wherever Unbound Gravel goes. A lot of them are on TV, but this one is not. This one's on a YouTube channel. It'll be live streamed this weekend. It starts in Emporia. In the XL category, it goes 350 miles through the Flint Hills on gravel and dirt paths on bicycles. 350 miles. So it goes to Paxico, where my mom is from.
Okay.
Alma, where my dad was from, and comes all the way back. Now, that's the big group. There's a 25-miler as well that doesn't really leave Emporia, that area. So they have different finishes. They've got 4 or 5 different categories. Can you imagine on a bicycle, gravel roads, dirt roads, and trails through the Flint Hills?
No, I'm just thinking there needs to be a lot of medical tents set up along the way. That's got to be rough.
These people come from all over the world. They're in Emporia. It's Saturday. The races are Saturday. I instantly haven't even seen it yet. I have complete and utter respect for those athletes. That is crazy. Kansas baseball coach Dan Fitzgerald, Big 12 Coach of the Year.
Amazing job.
Unbelievable. 3 years ago, they were dead last, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Big 12?
Yep.
How about 42-14 this year? 20-10 in the Big 12, number 2 seeding in the Big 12 tournament, and they may host a regional if they go win the Big 12 tournament. Better yet, they hit a school record 98 home runs this year.
It was amazing. I started following college baseball for the first time this year because of that team.
Scale of 1 to 10, how entertaining is it? Royals game, scale of 1 to 10, how entertaining?
Oh, man, the college games were a lot of fun this year. The fans were going crazy. They rushed the field after a walk-off win.
9?
Yeah, I'd say 9.
Royals? 6?
5.
5. Not scoring enough runs. The Vince Show's coming up next. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled.